how you're going to deal with the liberal Port Townsend, Grace Harbor vote. It's a big hurdle.
Port Townsend, I'm not certain there's much we can do about that. However, I gotta tell you, going to visit, I cannot believe that industry there, the people in Port Townsend, are going to be willing to stand by and see that mill closed. And that is what's going to happen if the policies, the local policies there are pushed forward. So I have to believe there's cool heads there that will respond to the need to pull back regulation, or to ensure that regulations don't close that mill down, which is so important to the economy. In terms of Grace Harbor, that is more conservative, even though the Democrats, they are more conservative there, and they are actually very well aligned with all the people up here today. They are conservative, they worry about their jobs, they are natural resource based, they understand the principles that we all are talking about up here.
Well, the way I deal with those issues is try to focus on policies, not people or labels, because you start throwing labels around and you lose people who would be attached to those labels. You know, it's always a tough battle with people that have expressed strong feelings against our philosophy. But I know from past races and from talking to people that they are capable of being turned if we do focus on logic and policy and everything else. Now you're going to turn everybody, you may not turn even most of them, but we'll turn enough to win this election, whoever gets this nomination. And I wouldn't write off any part of this district at all, or any person. By ignoring parts of the district or even neighborhoods with that kind of attitude that they can't be talked into, we've already lost. So we're not going to give it up. And I know that there's some people from Port Townsend here right now that are very fiercely fighting the battle for us.
The answer to me is very clear. You lead with a vision and you present a plan to achieve it. When you move beyond the traditional R&D rhetoric and you actually engage people, go out and you meet with them, they're willing to listen, especially if you propose a plan that will bless their children. So for example, we just toured the pulp mill in Port Townsend today. And I got to tell you that the people operating that plant, the blue-collar workers, were very excited to see someone come out, shake their hand, and talk to them about how it works and how we can do to expand it and grow it and get them out from underneath the regulatory burdens that are trying to close that plant down. And when you go and engage people that way, you don't have to write them off. People just want you to propose a plan and engage them, and not sit back and try to dial it in with a slick advertising campaign. When you do that, you can make a big difference. And as an example of that, you can see that I'm the only candidate that has an official party endorsement in this race. The Grace Harbor Republican Party endorsed my campaign for the efforts that we've done in winning votes and independent votes in Grace Harbor. That's how you do it. You go and you engage them, you present a plan, and show them how you're going to get it done.
I actually live in one of the more liberal districts within the state. The 27th district is my home legislative district, and but it's interesting that when you talk to people, they are concerned basically about the same things. We may differ on how we solve the problems, but they're concerned about the debt as well. We have a commonality there. Most people understand that living in an unsustained debt binge is going to destroy this country. Now, we can use logic with these people as long as we keep cool and calm and friendly. You can have conversations. I've had these conversations. In fact, I was making signs yesterday in front of my house, hammering on the sidewalk, and these two gals walked up who were students at the University of Puget Sound. And we got to talking. And then they talked about Obamacare and how they loved the fact that they were going to have free health care and all this stuff. And we started talking about supply and demand. And I said, okay, you understand how supply and demand works, right? Yes, okay. So you understand when you increase the demand, the price goes up. And they were, yeah. And if you decrease the supply, the price goes up even more. Yeah. So we can talk to them, and they'll start to think. the light bulbs will start to go on.
First of all, thank you, gentlemen, for showing up tonight. The Republican platform stands for traditional marriage, and also there is pro-life. So where do you stand on that?
Okay, well, personally, I am pro-life. I'm a believer, and I believe in all of the commandments that are in the Bible. From a life standpoint, though, that is a states' rights decision that we have had. That's been the founding fathers' decision. It wasn't until Roe versus Wade that it became a federal mandate that forced its way down upon the states and overrode the states' rights in that regard. I am against federal funding for abortions simply because I think that's a violation of your religious rights to have to pay for something like that you consider to be a sin. I agree, and I think it's a violation of your First Amendment right to have to pay for it. With regards to gay marriage, I'm actually opposed to that as well. I think our federal law as it currently stands is, Defense of Marriage Act, and that is what the federal law is, and that's what it should remain. If the states choose to make a different decision, again, that is the state's right.
Okay, so I believe in firm believer in the 10th Amendment and individual rights. And so the 10th Amendment, as Ike said, I believe that both gay marriage and pro-choice are states' rights. Personally, we have 2 adopted children. We are blessed every day that their mothers chose as they did. And I will do everything I can to ensure that the number of abortions are kept as low as possible. But at the very end of the day, I believe that it is the woman's right to choose. In terms of gay marriage, similar, I believe it's the state's rights. But on the other hand, I also believe that each individual, my personal belief is that each individual needs to be treated identically in front of the state. Religious organizations should absolutely do what they want as they see fit, but in front of the state should be the same.
In regards to the gay rights issue, I have steadfastly for many years said it's a state issue. That's where the decision has traditionally been made on marriage, and it was reserved by the Constitution in the states. So it's really up to the states. However, personally, I do believe there should be some legal relief for gay people who are breaking up in relationships or when one of the partner dies or what have you. I think that that's a kind of an equal protection law issue and should be dealt with by the states personally. I don't care what they call it personally. Whatever the public decides, but there should be some relief in that regard, in my opinion. In regards to abortion, that one is a very big issue in the sense that I believe that it's a public policy issue and I'm against it. However, that belongs to the states as well.
Let me be very clear. Life begins at conception and ends in natural death. And I also believe that marriage should be between one man and one woman. When it comes to policy, yeah, you can say that these are states' rights, but I can tell you also that in taking my oath to the Constitution, I also have the right to amend the Constitution or submit an amendment to it. So while this nation has been divided for so long over this and the courts have been stuck in it, I'm willing to support and put forward an amendment to define life as beginning at conception and ending at death. I'm also willing to support an amendment to the Constitution that would define marriages between one man and one woman to take it away from the political morass the court morass that we currently have. And then finally, I would just say this, just because I can say that doesn't mean that I won't protect your constitutional right to live the life behind your closed doors the way that you want to. God gave me the freedom to live my life and choose him whether or not I'm not going to enforce it upon you. So, thank you very much.
Taxpayer Protection Pledge. Now, for those here who may not be familiar with it, I'll read it to you. It's very brief. It reads, I pledge to the taxpayers of this district and to the American people that I will, 1, oppose any and all efforts to increase the marginal income tax rates for individuals and or businesses, and 2, oppose any net reduction or elimination of deductions and credits unless matched dollar for dollar by further reducing tax rates. And I believe of the 242 Republican members of Congress currently, 236 have signed this.
I have signed it, and I do support that. The truth is, if you look at the traditional rhetoric coming out, they always try to equivocate so they don't put themselves in a corner, which is why I like pledges like that, because you can really see where someone stands on principle. And of course, we saw that in August of last year, where we saw, again, the Conservative Party equivocate and then vote to raise a debt ceiling. A debt ceiling that is killing the future for our kids. Truth is, now is the time to stand up. We must cut spending. And if you have a right plan with the right experience, you can grow revenue through job growth, through small business growth, and still support our #1 priorities, like funding the military, like providing for Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. You just need the right person in Congress to actually foster an environment where small business growth will grow, where we'll lead with job growth, and all of a sudden have that revenue, and then you don't have to equivocate on whether or not you're going to raise taxes on something.
I also signed the pledge. I would add to that part of what we want to do is bring economic activity to full throttle again. The way we do that is not by raising tax rates, but by lowering tax rates. When you lower tax rates, you get more taxable income. It's just a natural result. Because our tax system is so slanted onto the people who make more money on the higher ends, those people, when you raise rates, have the most resources available to avoid taxes. They can choose to stop making income. And that's what we see statistically, and the evidence in history is, every time you raise marginal tax rates, you lower taxable income. And you don't get a real significant increase in revenue as a result. However, when you lower tax rates, you get more taxable income because people are investing again. And they're making companies and they're making jobs. That's what we need to get back to.
I have not signed the pledge, and I won't sign the pledge. I believe it's critical that we have got to address the budget deficit, and unfortunately, as much as I wish the Republicans could do it by ourselves, I think it's going to require a bipartisan, pragmatic approach. I think taking anything off the table to be able to achieve that is going to prolong the gridlock in Washington and keep us from addressing getting the budget deficit under control.
Well, I signed the pledge in April, and I would point out, though, the pledge is somewhat meaningless when the government continually, every day, every hour, every minute depreciates the value of the dollars in your wallet. That is a form of tax. And that needs to be addressed too, and it's completely ignored by those that have signed the pledge and then approve budgets that are trillions of dollars short of revenue. So to be realistic, Kai, I think we need to include that in the pledge as well.